This video is just going to be about Geopy and Folium one more time, which are modules in Python that can be used for geocoding and plotting spatial data on top of maps. And I already demonstrated how to use those two modules in previous videos, where I used single locations to geocode those locations into longitude and latitude data based on the address name. And I also demonstrated in previous videos how you can use the Folium module to create a marker plot representing that location as a marker on a map. In this video, I want to do basically the same workflow, only that I have a CSV file with multiple addresses, and I now want to create a marker plot with multiple markers. So I'm reading in this CSV file called locations.csv. I'm using pandas. So you can see here the content of that data frame. It contains the country name, city name, and street name, and also some metric that can be used in following videos for creating, for example, an intensity-based heat map, where the metric will represent the color of the heat map. I'm showing you here that this data set is in fact a pandas data frame. Along with that come a series of methods that we can use for handling the data in a convenient way. And here I'm creating an additional column to the data frame called addresses, which is essentially a combination of country, city, and street name. I'm importing Geopy, which gives me access to a range of services for geocoding data. So I'm creating here a service handler based on the nominatum constructor, and then I'm importing here a tool called rate limiter, which will allow me to consider the rate limits for geocoding the data using this service. I'm now using the pandas method apply to apply the service considering the rate limits to every address in my data frame. This will return location objects that I store into a additional column called coordinates. And now I'm giving you here a overview of the resulting data frame after having added those additional columns. And you can see I have an address column here, and then I have here a coordinates column that will contain locations. Just to show you the data type of those locations, you can see this is a Geopy data type called location. So there's a class defined for this. Along with this class come a series of attributes. So every coordinate in this data frame is a location object, and each location object, for example, has a longitude and latitude attribute. And these are the attributes that are now important for creating map-based plots. So I'm extracting here all the longitudes and latitudes for the respective locations, storing them into a separate list using a list comprehension here in Python. And then I'm calculating the mean longitude and mean latitude score of those locations using the statistics module in Python. And this is I show you here also the result of that calculation, so you can see here the mean longitude and latitude score of that data set. And now finally in these lines of code, I now create my map-based marker plot by first creating a Folium map centered around a certain location, which is made up by the mean latitude and mean longitude scores. I'm setting a zoom level of 15. And then I'm looping through all the locations in my data frame by using the shape method of or the shape attribute of the pandas data frame, which will contain both the number of rows and columns. So the shape attribute is a list, and the first entry in that list is the number of rows in my data frame. So by looping here through this for loop, I will go through each row in my data frame, and essentially that means I'm iterating through every location. I'm accessing the location data, so the latitudes and the longitudes of each location and creating a marker for that location, and then I'm adding that marker to the map. So one by one I'm adding the markers, and finally I'm then displaying the map object that now contains those markers, and you can see the final result here. So it's essentially the only thing it changed in comparison to the previous videos was that I had this loop and that I looped through the data frame one by one instead of just having one specific location that I could create a marker for. So if you're interested in Folium and also Geopy, you can access this code by clicking on the link in the video description. This will bring you to my blog post where I made this all of this code available.